Alright, so they're getting a lot easier to handle now. It's been a few days, and you can see where when I was handling it, it was still tacky. So I didn't want to push my luck, so we got it where it's nice and dry now. So what I want to do is we need to clear off. See all the overspray? Because it was a windy day when I was painting, and I don't want that to react with the paint we're going to be using, because we're going to be using the Tamiya. Okay, so let's get this overspray off. So let's, I want to make sure that we get all of it in the cracks as well. Because that Rust-Oleum is really thick. And the last thing I want to do is have it fill in some of the cracks. The whole reason in the first place that we got the Tamiya is because it's nice and thin. It's a good lacquer paint. And the last thing I want is it filling in some of these cracks. And I'm just terrified of the paint reacting to the Rust-Oleum, so I don't want that to happen. I want to make sure it's nice and clean. So when we put the Tamiya on, we're going to put it on very, very thin. Alright, let's try to wipe that down. There. It's looking pretty good. Now we're going to put this aside and let it completely dry. We're going to do this section now. Again, I wish if I had known, I would have put a mask or something to protect the bottom. I can't believe how bad it got. And I don't want to damage the putty. There we are. So now we got to do the surface area. So let's try to get this nice and clean. And then we got to let it totally dry, because this is going to be, I don't want it to affect the Tamiya paint in any way. So it'll be a little bit better on this as opposed to the top, because there's no puttied areas on the bottom. The thinner doesn't affect the Tamiya. We're going to go over it with a really light coat just to try to kind of layer it up. So that looks better. So let's put this aside. Okay, so she had some time to dry. We got all the nice smooth putty. It's all smoothed out. The seams look pretty good. We did the bottom. We had masked everything off. I masked off the clear areas. And let me show you how that's going to fit to the bottom of the saucer. We have the way the halves are going to fit together. Go like that. So what I think we're ready to do now is, what I want to do is I want to mask off the top. There's really nothing to mask off on the bottom. We already light blocked the inside. I used the reflective paint. So for the paint color, we're going to be using the finish, the mother of pearl paint, and that's going to look really nice. We got the Tamiya that's ready to go on this. So when it comes to masking, this is pretty much all set to paint. The top, on the other hand, is a different story. See how we have the little windows on C-decks, and then we have of course, the officer's quarters, or the officer's lounge, excuse me, that's in the back. And we've got the impulse engines. So what I want to use for that, we're going to put the bottom section aside. In the past, I've used the Elmer's glue to mask off the windows. And what you do is you put a little toothpick full, and we put them into the areas. That's all fine, but the Elmer's does a good job, but you have to put multiple layers of this in order to build up the thickness to then just flake it off. Instead, what I'm going to use today is I'm going to be using the liquid latex. This will be a little bit more thicker when we apply it into the window areas in the officer's lounge, and then after we paint, we'll be able to take them off. Same thing with the impulse engines. When it comes to the impulse engines, let's see, there's a little, it looks like there's a little bit of silver paint that had gotten on there. I don't know if that's from the tape. Let's see. Yeah, there's just a little bit of overspray. Yeah, what I'm going to do is I don't want to scrape it, so I'm going to take a little bit of the paint thinner, and I'm going to use a Q-tip, and I want to get that little bit of the area off, because that's in the corner right where we got to mask off. Yeah, that's a lot better. Okay, it was just a little tiny bit of overspray. So when it comes to the area with the crystal, luckily this area came out. That's going to be blue, and that's going to go right inside. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to mask off the area on the inside, around the area. We're going to mask off the impulse engines, and we're not going to paint the bottom because we already did. So this is going to go over the top, and what it's going to do is it's going to allow the light to come in from the bottom to illuminate the impulse crystal as well as the impulse engines. And we're going to do the same thing. I think we're going to start with the windows on C-decks, and I'm going to practice using the liquid latex because I've never used this before. So let's get this out. I think what I'm going to do, we're going to light the bottom so I can see it a little better, so excuse the brightness. That's a lot better to be able to see the little windows. So I got a little dab, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right into this little area, this little hole. Can I rest that on there? Okay. So this is a bit of a bigger drop. I want to try doing the squares in the front. There. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's a little bit darker looking on camera, so that's a good sign. So let's start going around. What I want to do is I want to get the basic shape of the window. A square shape, because if there's any extra, what I'll do is before we paint, we'll clean up the edges. But see how for the most part you can see the windows look pretty good. Let's see, do I have enough to do the little, yeah, a little bit more. Let's see, we got those two. Coming around, let's see, let's do the officers' quarters now, or the lounge, excuse me. Hopefully you guys can see the windows. What we'll do is we'll wait for it to dry, we'll clean them up, and if we need to, we'll put another coat on. So let's come around and we'll do the starboard side windows. So we get those little round windows right here. And back around. Do we have any over here? I think there are windows there as well. See, it's hard to tell with the putty in the back. Okay, I think. So it looks like that side's starting to dry. So let me put a little bit more and see if see, this was a thin layer. There. And that's still a little bit wet. Here we are. So we're going to wait for that to dry, and then we'll go around and we'll put another coat on. So let's do the impulse engines next. There. And when that dries, we'll put another coat over that. Let's do the other side now. We're going to do the starboard side. So, see how that's covered? So what we're going to do now is we're going to wait for this to dry. And see how when it dries clear? So when it's totally dry, we're going to put another coat on, or another layer, and we'll see how many we need before we're all set to where I feel comfortable, or we're going to paint over it. Okay, so all the liquid latex had a time to dry. And what I did was, just to put a thin layer over to extra smoothness, I put a real thin layer of the super glue along the perfect plastic putty edges, just to reinforce it. And I did that around B and C decks as well as the impulse decks. And what I did was I put a small paper towel and I rolled it up, and that's where the impulse crystal is going to be. So when we paint, those walls on the inside are going to be absorbing all the light, and the impulse crystal is going to glow, and we're going to paint that blue. So just like she did looked on screen. Back to the impulse engines. All the liquid latex is good. I think one of the coats will be enough, because what I did was I had to reapply the back where the office's lounge is, just because I wanted to see if one coat would be enough, and I peeled it off, and yeah, it'll be enough because it's thick. So what we got to do now is we'll wait for the glue, we'll wait for everything to really dry, and then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to light block it. And what I'm going to use, I'm not going to use the Rust-Oleum, I'm going to use the Tamiya. We're going to use the black, and this is TS14. And what we're going to do is we're going to light block the top and around B and C decks, as well as the impulse crystal decks. And eventually the color we're going to use is, I'm going to use the Tamiya. If this paint is anything like the cap, it's going to be perfect. It's the mother of pearl, the white beautiful color of the Enterprise refit. And I'm going to use the TS45. So when all this is dry, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to black it out. And I'll show you guys what it looks like, because here in New England, it's close to Thanksgiving time, and the weather is not particularly friendly for painting outside. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to spray it and then bring it back in the house and let it dry. But I'll show you guys what it looks like when the light blocking is applied. Okay, so everything had a chance to dry, and what I was hoping was the super glue put just a microfilm over everything to kind of seal the putty. And what we're going to do is we're ready to put the primer on. And again, we're going to use the Tamiya TS14. I like that they come wrapped in plastic so you know no one else has been using it. Well, you'd be able to tell with the cap or the paint nozzle, but you know what I mean. All right, painting outside in New England right now, the weather is not ideal. So let's make a quick little booth, and I'm going to just do a quick spray on these pieces. Now we're going to wait for this to dry. And when this is dry, we'll put another thin coat on. And we'll see how many coats we need before we can put the finished coat. Okay, so it had some time to dry. And what I did was I put a couple of coats on. And we want to make sure everything is nice and blacked out. And it's going to be pretty easy, I hope. The plan is after we put the finished paint on, I'll be able to just go in and we'll take off the dried liquid latex. You can see in the back where the captain's lounge is, or the officer's lounge. And you can see the top and the sides. So it's looking pretty good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sand down, make everything nice and smooth, make sure that there's no runny lumps or anything, and I'll show you guys what we're going to be using. We're going to be doing the Tamiya, and I'm going to be using hopefully it looks like the cap, and this is the TS45, and like I said, this will be perfect. So in my next video, what we're going to do is we're actually going to, let me get the bottom part. We're going to paint. What we're going to do is we're going to paint the bottom half, and we're going to paint the top half. What we could do, once everything is painted, we're going to do the lighting. We'll do the lighting kit. We're going to make our own. We're going to light the hull, the primary hull. We're going to make it look nice and bright. Then we're going to close it up, and then we're going to do the Aztecing decals. So in the next video, like I said, we're going to paint. She'll be all set, she'll be finished, and she'll be ready for Aztecing and lighting. So my friends, I appreciate you watching, and until the next video, I'll talk to you soon.